let's play a little game. I'm going to mention to you a car brand, and I want you to think about what that brand name suggests in your mind and see whether or not it matches what the manufacturer sees about itself, yeah? Okay, let's start with an easy one. Ferrari. You're probably thinking Formula One, Italian supercars, fast red flamboyance, yeah? Okay, that's an easy one. Rolls-Royce. Again, maybe a bit easy. You're probably thinking luxury, hand craftsmanship, expensive, maybe bordering on vulgarity? Maybe you wouldn't be wrong. But ostentatious luxury? Perhaps. Okay, let's come down a little bit now. What about Skoda? Well, I think with Skoda you're probably going to think to yourself, sensible, practical, everyday family cars, yeah? And I think with all three of those, you're probably right. I think that's exactly how the manufacturers see themselves. But what if I said to you, Cupra? Now I think that's quite a difficult one, because let's remember it was only in 2018 that Cupra became a standalone brand in its own right, because up until then it was the performance badge that was attached to the backside of Seats, you know, the Ibiza Cupra, the Leon Cupra, the Leon Cupra R. But now, as I say, it's a standalone brand, and what does it really stand for? Well, they want to see themselves as sort of like a real sort of like performance disruptor in the market space, a challenger with a rebellious spirit, if you read the marketing buff. But here's the thing, because apart from the electric Born and the Leon, all the other cars in the range are SUVs. And now there's another one, the fourth SUV that the company's launched. Hardly sporting, or is Cupra the brand that's going to put the sports into sports utility vehicle? Well, I've come down to Spain near Barcelona to find out. Tough gig, yeah. Anyway, welcome to this week's new car review brought to you from southern Spain. Welcome to the new Cupra Terramar. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now, before I get started on the review of the Cupra Terramar, of course, it's the time where I need to ask a little favour of you. I know, I keep asking favours, but the thing is, I've got some subscribers, but I'd like a few more. So if you're not already a subscriber, would you please consider becoming one? Once you've done that, if you press the little bell button down below, you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. And once you've watched it, if you enjoy it, which I hope you do, I mean, I've come out to Spain for you guys, for goodness sake. Give it a little thumbs up. And of course, don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars we review, such as the Cupra Terramar, and of course on the House of Cars channel as a whole. Oh good, I hear you all cry, it's another SUV, who's buying all these? Well, the fact of the matter is, lots of people. This is the fastest growing sector in Europe at the moment. The D segment SUV. It's now sort of like, as I've said before, the sort of de facto family car of choice, whereas it used to be, you know, Mondeos and Vectras and, you know, Peugeot 406s or whatever. It's now these medium-sized SUVs that people are wanting and people are buying. And this is Cupra saying, well, we want a slice of that action, you know. But hang on a second here, you say, they've already got the Ateca, so is this in replacing the Ateca? No, it doesn't actually, it sits above it, because I thought the same, but this actually sits above the Ateca in the range, which still continues as one of those four SUVs that the brand has. But they see the Terramar as appealing to, like, dare I suggest, a slightly more grown-up customer they've maybe not attracted into the brand before. Now, reading between the lines, that says to me that they want some sales from the likes of BMW, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, which is interesting because obviously it's part of the same group as Audi. In fact, it's built in an Audi factory, believe it or not. And maybe the likes of Alfa Romeo as well. And it's going to do that by offering a lot more, because there are 5 different choices across 3 different technologies within this car. Not only can you get it with normal internal combustion engine, mild hybrid, and of course plug-in hybrids as well. But is all of that enough to tempt you away from one of those more established brands into something like Cupra? And does it embody what Cupra have stood for up until now, but just in a more grown-up package, dare I suggest? However, before we start all of that, of course, it's time just to take a little snapshot to give you the brief basics of the new Cupra Terramar. Well, the Terramar is the brand's all-new flagship, as I say, fitting neatly into the D-segment SUV class. It embraces Cupra's new design language with the hopes of drawing in new customers to the brand. As I said, it's available with either petrol, mild hybrid or plug-in hybrid powertrains. There's a variety of different trim levels, including a couple of special editions from launch in the UK. And prices are going to start from just over £37,000 and go to over £50,000, depending on which drivetrain and trim level you decide upon. So, a more grown-up design language, different choices of driveline, including hybrids and plug-in hybrids, and dare I suggest a little bit of Mediterranean pizzazz to lure you away from the ubiquitous BMW, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. Is it enough to do so? Let's put it through a House of Cars road test review and find out. Right, as always, we start with how the car looks, because I think this is quite an important part of what's standing Cupra apart at the moment. And as I say, they call themselves a rebellious sort of like challenger in the marketplace. Okay, if you say so. But I do like the look of the car. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, they've got this new design language going on using triangles. You see the triangle motifs through there, through the running lights, the sort of like daytime running lights, the 3 lamps there, which is quite cool. Of course, you've got your big transformer-like badge. V's, I think, are also the big thing. There's a lot of V shapes going on in the car. The 2 sort of like lines coming down the bonnet there. Of course, the badge almost forms a V as well, and of course, those lights form a V. They said something in the design brief in the press pack which I thought sounded a bit silly, but actually looking at it, I do quite get what they're saying. The grille's a lot lower. So of course it does have a grille, but you would normally expect an SUV to have a grille slightly higher up than that, and they reckon that's to give the car a more sort of sports car-like look at the front, you know, with this kind of slightly protruding arrow nose, because when it comes down it then goes back in. It's this negative space in here that curves back out. I really like that, and I think it really stands the car apart. Now, as I say, it's also following on from what they've done with the facelifted Leon and Fermenter cars, which obviously they've been making for a little while. They've just gone through a facelift, and it's following a similar design language to them, as well as the new EV, the Tavis Scan. And I think we're going to see another car from them called the Rebel as well. They're a concept car, I think, called Dark Rebel, which was very, very similar in its design language. But I think it works, I really do. I think I get it. It's a very kind of sporty looking SUV. So first up, we're off to that good start. All your cooling, as I say, is down here. There's some technology in the car, as you'd expect. You've got a forward-facing camera neatly integrated into this area, the grille here, and then your radar guided cruise control sensors down at the bottom. But again, look at those veins, they're going into that sort of V-like shape. As you move round to the side, of course, you get your high set little sort of like driving lamps up there, and a little bit of aero work as well in the front air dam to take airflow round the side of the car. But yeah, I think it's quite a striking looking car, and I do like it. And they've got a lot of new colours, a lot of very distinctive colours. This sort of more kind of flat, although it is a metallic grey, I think, this particular one. And they were saying last night they've got some really interesting new colours coming on stream as well to make it really sort of like stand out and emphasise the design. But yeah, I think we're off to a good start. Now you move around the side of the car. It's maybe not as big as you're thinking in some respects. It's 4.5 metres long, the car, so it's bigger than the Ateca, but it's slightly smaller than a Kodiaq. And the Kodiaq's a 7-seater from Skoda. The Kodiaq obviously seats 7. This is only a 5-seater. That you don't get a 7-seat Cupra. This is a 5-seater. Wheelbase is just over 2,600 millimetres long as well, so that gives you an idea of the physical size of the car. Wheel sizes, they start at 18s, go up to 20s. This car is sitting on 20s, which I think are probably about right, and they fill the arches quite nicely. And of course, what else have we got round the side? Well, we've got a lot of Cupra's signature sort of like copper bronze accents, if you like. You get it round the wheels on this particular one. The brake calipers are that copper colour, which I do like. Different shaded grey on the door mirrors, that kind of graphite grey to the rest of the bodywork, which is good. And everything else is blacked out, isn't it? You know, there's no chrome on the car, so you get the black, gloss black window lines there, the gloss black roof rails make it very sporty looking. There's not a huge amount going on in the side elevation of the car, not like you get with the Fermenter with sort of like real sort of like strong shoulder lines and stuff, but it's still neat enough. I like this sort of like secondary almost wheel arch arc that goes round there just in the bodywork that just highlights, you know, sort of like the muscular wheel arches, and that's at front and back as well, so I do like that. But it's the front and the back that I think are the most striking bits. And side profile, it is just another SUV. However, it's still quite a handsome SUV at that. It's the back of the car I really like. It's a shame it's not night, because you'd see this beautiful light bar. I mean, it really is striking. They had some cars at the sort of like press, the media event last night, and we were in this really interesting place. We're at the old circuit down by Terramar, which is where the brand was launched, and obviously this car is then named after. And we were in underneath the concrete grandstands, and they had them all lit up beautifully, but they had the light on display, and it's a stunning rear light signature on this car. I really like it, with the badge lit up as well. Just looks fabulous, really distinctive, very muscular looking at the back. I really like the rear end of this car, just like the front of it. As well as the Cupra badge there, obviously you get the lettering of Cupra. There's no Terramar badges on it at all. That's it, it's just Cupra. So you need to know what you're looking at. There's obviously this diffuser area down at the bottom here with these sort of tiny little veins in them. They're not doing anything, let's be honest. They're there just for styling views. There's no exposed exhaust pipes. Now this one here I've got, this particular car, isn't a hybrid at all. This is the pure petrol one I'm driving at the moment, the 265 PS petrol. And I'm surprised there maybe isn't a bit more of an emphasis made of the exhaust pipes. Or maybe that's a thing that's going away, because we know from the Mini Cooper S that I had on the channel, they've done away with it as well. So maybe they want to do away with exhaust pipes. Maybe people see exhaust pipes and think, ooh, harmful gases, ooh, I don't know. But it would maybe just emphasise the car sporting a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? Just some nice, maybe quad tail pipes would look quite nice on the car. Anyway, other than that, I think it's a great looking car. I really do like it. You get this lovely big spoiler at the top there. It's got this nice sort of like almost indented centre section to let airflow across the roof. Obviously rear wiper. Good. These side vanes to help with the airflow around the bodywork as well. You've got a little rear camera there, rear reversing camera. Then of course you have obligatory parking sensors as well. Look, as I say, I think it's a good looking car. I think for a start, we're off to a little bit of a winner, you know, in terms of sort of like coming into this marketplace. You know, it's not quite as, dare I suggest, as BMW can be, you know, for something like the X1. It's maybe not quite as plain as you get from Audi, but samey, or is it a bit more kind of sensible like you get from Mercedes and Volvo. I think it's a good looking car. I think it's a good looking car, but what does it matter what I think? You might be out there placing an order for it. What do you think about it? As always, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, I've got a little confession to make here. When I do boot sizes, and obviously I talk to them in litres, I take also the figures from the official press pack and things like that, you know, because I think, well, the manufacturers know what they're talking about. And according to Cupra, that is 602 litres in there. But I've read other people saying it's not that, it's less than that, it's 500 odd litres. I genuinely don't know. I'm saying it's 602 litres according to Cupra. But I will find out and put the actual thing down below in the banner, down at the bottom. So I will find out for definite for you. And unfortunately, obviously, I don't have my suitcases, even though I am in Spain, because all I need is a wee hold-all. But you can see it's quite a good boot size. Now, if you go for the plug-in hybrid, you lose a variable height boot floor. This has a variable height boot floor. It's not that variable. It comes up a little bit. You're only getting an extra, I would suggest, inch or so in terms of height, but it might be enough, depending obviously what you're carrying. You've got a 40-20-40 split rear seat, which I always prefer. I think that's a really good thing, because it means you can carry 2 passengers but still have a load through. You know, if you've got a longer load or you're trying to load sort of like, you know, sort of like slightly awkward things in, you're not having to sort of like deal with a 60-40 split. So that's good. And the boot itself is in a nice shape. It's a good square shape. It is deep in terms of, with the as I say, that extra inch given with that hoop floor lowered down, but when you bring it up to the height, there's a little drop in, but not massive amount. I am parked on a little bit of a slope, but you know, obviously it's just my thigh height, so if you're lifting bags in and out, you know, that's your sort of lift you've got there. So it's not horrific, is it, you know? But it's a good shape, it's a good size. It would certainly be enough for most people's uses in terms of family, I would suggest. But I will confirm those numbers for you and make sure they're in the right, correct ones are in the banner down below. There we go. One. Nearly went on the wrong side, obviously, because I'm in left-hand drive. So I want to show you me sitting behind me, which I always think is the fairest way to do this. Right. Good in terms of rear accommodation. For 2 certainly. If you have a centre passenger, if you're trying to get 5 in, there is quite a high centre tunnel. in there, so that's the problem. You're going to have the legs straddling that. But in fairness, either side have got ample space. I've got loads of leg space. Now, I'm 5'8". I get it, I'm not the tallest man in the world, but that seat is set up for me. The seat backs are sculpted out, the plastic backs of them are sculpted out, but I don't need it. I've got plenty of knee room there. I've got loads of foot room because I like my seat low down. I can get my feet well below it, so you sit quite high and your legs go down. So I think in terms of for 4, absolutely fine, there's no problem. Headroom's, again, okay for me. This car has got the panoramic glass sunroof in it, but it is scooped out on either side to accommodate heads, and it's okay. And obviously you've got the head restraints as well. But so as I say, the 5th person in the centre, it's going to struggle a little bit, I think, there. What else have we got? Well, there's no pockets on the backs of the front seats at all. There's no pockets there at all. There's door bins which are shaped for water bottles, and probably a little bit more. You get some things in there. You do have a flip down armrest with 2 water bottles integrated, with cup holders integrated into that as well. There is rear climate in this particular car, and there's 2 USB-C charging ports. The ISOFIX points are really easy to get to. They're just behind these little plastic covers, but obviously they're going to come off and get lost somewhere in the car. So make sure you put them in a little Ziploc bag and leave them in the house or something like that. See, practical. So, summary up here. Yes, good for 4. Family of 4. So for instance, my family, whereas me and my partner, 10-year-old and dog, this would be absolutely fantastic. You know, there'd be more than enough room in here. If there's 5 of you, you're going to struggle a little bit, and other people do it better, as I suggest. But on the whole, decent room back here. Right, a couple of things. First of all, apologies, I've got to have the car running because I need the fans on, because I need to make sure obviously the aircon's running, because otherwise I'll just melt, you know. I'm in southern Spain, for goodness sake. Tough gig, as I say. So that's the first thing, so apologies on that. Right, so let's have a wee chat about the interior of the car, because I think this, like the outside, is a real standout interior in the class. There's a lot to like in here, and it isn't just sort of like, you know, a clone of a Volkswagen or an Audi. Cupra really have got their own design language going on, both inside and out, and I love the interior of this car. There's quite a lot to like about it as well. First of all is the design of it. I really like it. I think it looks really cool and different. You know, you've got this 3D parametric veneer here going on here, which is lovely. Goes across the dashboard. You've got the lovely copper, just little accents around it, you know, the Cupra copper colour here, you know, on the vents here, on the badge, the steering wheel, just anywhere you might think you would get sort of like a brushed silver finish, you know, on the steering wheel and around the little buttons and things like that, is that copper finish, that bronze finish, and I really like that. There's a lovely bit of ambient lighting that goes around the dashboard as well and just spears into the doors, so that's nice. And I really like the door handles, because I know that sounds daft, but it's just a line of that copper that goes in, and then all of a sudden the front of it is just a blade. It's plastic, unfortunately, but it's just a blade in that copper colour for the door handle. It's not a big handle. I really like that. Sennheiser, they're extending their partnership with Sennheiser, and you can have the option of a real 12-speaker, you know, all singing, all dancing, multimedia, sort of like, you know, high fidelity audio system in the car as well. So that's, you know, another thing that's really excellent. I'm going to go on and talk about the materials a little bit more in a minute, but let me just, while I'm here, let me just talk about the driving position, which is superb, really good, you know, really nice driving position. There's only one fault I have with it, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the seats, these bucket seats, are beautiful, and the way this design is, it means everything is to the driver's hand here. Now, you'll notice there's no transmission lever here at all. There's not even buttons. It's the Volkswagen column thing that you get on the IDs and the Cupra Born. So, you know, up here you twist forward for, you know, like the BMW i3 had it, you know, you twist forward for drive, all the way back for reverse, and sport, and push for park. And then you've got a column stock over on the left-hand side that does indicators and wipers. So that's maybe takes a bit of getting used to. That is a gear transmission lever, not a column stock. Physical buttons on the steering wheel. Yes, Cupra, well done. Not touch sensitive ones. You've physically got to push them. And they are quite small, but I like that because they're integrated neatly into those spokes. And once you know where they are, they're within an easy thumb reach. You get an engine stop start button on the wheel, and then there's your driving modes on that one over there. Right, this is the one of the things that I'm not so keen on. This car has this is the petrol engine car, so this has the DSG. They've all DSG. You don't get a manual Terramar. They're all equipped with the DSG transmission. So you've got the paddles for changing up and down if you're in the manual mode. My only gripe is they're too close to the column. I think they need to be a little bit further out because I find myself moving my hands in an unnatural position to use them. They could do with just being a bit longer to me and just being further out. Other than that, that's the only thing about the driving position that I've got to complain about. And if you're not using them, then it won't matter. But if you do like to use them, like I'm up in the hills around, you know, to sort of like outside Barcelona and things, I like to use them. I just find they're a little bit too far in for me. But that's it. That's the only thing about the driving position I have to complain about. The seats are excellent adjustment. They've got good support. The materials, which I'm about to talk about, grip you well in the seat and they hold you in place. The wheels are nice size. It's a nice girth as well. Slightly flattened off at the bottom, but that's okay. It just means you've got more room for your knees as well, I suppose, in that sense. So that's excellent. And you get a great view of the dashboard in front of you. Now, obviously, this is Cupra's version of, you know, the virtual cockpit, if you like, you know, where you can change the dials and you can change what you actually see in terms of, you know, what you can have the map in there, you know, you can have different trip meter readouts in there. You've seen it all before. I don't need to show you every last bit about it, but there's a good level of adjustability and configuration where you can personalize it to what you like. See, I always like the map up in front of me, you know, in a dashboard display, and I like that. So you're not always constantly looking at the screen here. So that's good, okay? Right, I'm going to talk about the materials now because there's a big thing with me is I like manufacturers talking about sustainability. I like when they talk about it because I like them using interesting materials in cars. I'm so over leather and stuff like that. I don't interest in it anymore. I want to see what they can do differently, and Cupra are doing it. You've got this lovely sort of almost neoprene. It feels like I used to have a Volvo C30, in fact a couple of Volvo C30s years ago, and they used that almost like a wetsuit material on the edges of the seats, and that's kind of what it feels like, you know. And then it's the same up here. You get this soft, look how soft that is. That squidgy dash, that's excellent, and it's got a matte sort of finish to it, which looks excellent. I love that. And then, as I say, with a copper accent through it. Now, sustainability depends on the model that you have, depends on the seat that you have, but there's a big talk about it. Now, I've written it down, so please forgive me, because I'm going to make sure that I want to get this right when I'm talking to you about it. So, basically, you have a choice of three sort of interior finishes, depending obviously on the trim level you get. You get the first one is called Deep Ocean, right? Silly name. Well, you say it's a silly name. I'm not sure it is, because the seats in it use sequel yarn in the centre sections. Now, sequel yarn is made up of 100% marine plastics retrieved from beaches, seas, and estuaries, and it's a lovely material. The Fiat use it on the little 500. Brilliant, I love that. You know, so that's the you know, on the lead-in cars. Then you go to this car, which has this one called Moonlight, and this one uses Dynamica fabric, which is almost slight Alcantara-esque finish to it, and that contains 75% recycled textiles from PET plastics and old clothing. There you go. And if you go for the top Canyon High, it uses a leather, but it has plant-based tanning processes. Brilliant, love that. I really like that. And that's, you know, I'm really, that switches me on to a manufacturer when they start talking about stuff like that. So I'm all for that. You know, I'm a family man, I've got kids. I want to make sure we leave the planet in the right place for them. So anything that they can do, and it makes it more interesting. The materials are just more interesting. So thank you, Cupra. I do like that. Right, let's move on to the negative, shall we? This is good. You know, this screen, which is, how big is it? What did I say? It is 12.9 inches. Screen. And on the whole, it is fine. You know, it's you know, as you'd expect. You get Apple CarPlay, you get Android Auto. It's all in Spanish at the moment, so I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with it. But you can go into it to do your smart assistants, you know, your lane keep assist, turn off your start stop, obviously on the petrol car, front collision warning, that type of thing. So it's got all of that stuff, and you can go into it to set it all up. Illumination, that looks like, so dynamic light assist, matrix. Why is it saying that? See, it's saying, it's beeping at me and it's saying something in Spanish and I don't know what it means. So just shush. The downside is it uses these infernal slider controls of Volkswagen. Now they're okay in the sense, but why? Why does it use them? You know, to adjusting your temperature, it should be just easier than this. Why? Oh, you've got physical buttons here. Why can't you just put a couple of physical buttons there? That would be so much better, Cupra. But in fairness, that's the only thing I can actually fault this interior for. Is that. That's it. You know, just those slider controls. The screen itself is okay. You know, when you've got, you know, obviously you use your CarPlay and you've got it up, then that's absolutely fine, you know. So, and it's nice and it's bright and it's up in your line of sight. You also get head-up display depending on model as well, which is good. And as I say, you can configure the dashboard in front of you, which is 10.25 inch, their virtual cockpit, so you can configure that. So on the whole, I'm maybe being really negative towards just that little tiny strip of buttons. I just wish they hadn't done it. You know, and for adjusting climate, you've got to go into the screen, you know, to adjust, you know, the fan speed, you know, where the direction flow is and things like that. And I just feel that maybe it should be a bit easier than that. But I'm sure over time you would get used to it. I'm sure I am being a little bit negative in fairness. You know, and you've got dual zone climate, so you can adjust the rear as well. So, you know, it's not too bad. I've never liked these touch sensitive slider controls from Volkswagen Group. They annoy me a lot. I'm so pleased they didn't put them on the wheel. I really am. Right, what else have we got? We've got good storage, we've got wireless charging down there, we've got 2 cup holders here, we've got connectivity in there. I don't know why they've given me this other phone, but there we go. There's 2 USB-C ports in there, there's a little slot in there for putting the key in, electric park brake, adjustable height armrest, which is nice, you know, and deep enough for some Mars bars. Door bins are fine, I can fit my sunnies in them and water bottles. And down here there's the light switches down by my right knee. Again, it's those touch sensitive ones that come from Volkswagen Group. Look, I'm going to leave it at that because there's so much to like about it. Great use of materials is my first big thing with it, and the design of it is lovely. I really like it. Yeah, there's a couple of little bits of plastic which might be nicer if they were metal, but I'll forgive it because of the rest of the materials that they use. It feels like it's going to last to eternity because everything feels solid. I love the soft touch materials up here. Good clear dashboard which you can configure. That software seems to be better than it's been in certain cars from Volkswagen that I've used, but I still don't like these slider controls. But the big thing for me is the use of the materials and the sustainability message, and it's well equipped as standard. So well done, Cupra. You're off to, you know, you're hitting it with the styling, you've got it with the interior. If the rest of the car adds up, I think you could go on to a bit of a winner here. Right, let's talk about technical stuff now and the engines that you can have in the car. Apologies for the iPad. As you see, we literally got the press pack yesterday when we were on our way out to the launch, so I've just had a few hours to try and digest this and what it's available. Basically, there's something for everyone, unless you want diesel. There's no diesel option in, okay? It's all petrol, but it's basically either mild hybrid, full petrol, or plug-in hybrid, okay? So depending on what you want or like, there should be something for you in that sense. Right, so you start with the 1.5 ETSI engine. It's a mild hybrid, okay? Puts out 150 PS through a 7-speed DSG gearbox. As I said, that's the only transmission you can have for the car. No other autos or manuals or anything like that. It's the 7-speed DSG throughout the range, okay? It uses a 48-volt starter generator system with a small battery. So in other words, it's there. It never drives on pure electric power, that ETSI engine. It's just there to help fill in the gaps, you know, where the engine itself drops off and things like that, okay? It may coast with the engine off at times, however, to recover some energy, believe it or not. But that'll be under braking, and it'll just support the engine most of the time with electrical assistance, all right? So as I say, it never actually switches, you're never driving on electric power only, if that makes sense. Next up, we've got this here, which is the standard 2-litre TSI power unit. Now, there's 2 options of this, okay? So you either have a 204 PS. This isn't a hybrid, this is full petrol. So 2 litre TSI unit that produces either 204 PS and puts its power down through a 4-wheel drive system, or there's this car that I've got here, which is a 265 PS unit, okay? And this is in the VZ variant, so you get, trim levels a bit confusing, there's V1 and V2, then you move to VZ1, VZ2, it's only the 265 comes in the VZ, okay? Sorry about that. And again, 7-speed DSG transmission. Then you go to the e-hybrid, which is a plug-in hybrid, okay? And that mates the 1.5 litre TSI engine to either 204 PS or a 272 PS output in the, again, the higher VZ trim. So the lower ones in the V trims, the higher ones in the VZ. Okay. Now that has a 19.7 kilowatt hour usable battery capacity that has the potential to travel at more than 70 miles on pure electric driving alone. So if you're a company car driver, that's probably the one that you'll plump for, because obviously you get your advantage there with your benefit in kind. So that's the one that makes sense for the company car drivers from that point of view. You can also charge, this is what I found quite interesting, because obviously I do a lot with electric vehicles. When plug-in hybrids, when you're charging, there are not a lot of them capable of fast charging. You can charge this from up to speeds of 50 kilowatts, which is excellent on the DC charge, and up to 11 kilowatts on an AC, so 3-phase electricity. So if you're topping the battery up when you're out on the go, and you stop at one of those 50 kilowatt rapid chargers, you can top it up with this and it'll take the full 50 kilowatts. So that's excellent. So as I say, it's going to be dependent obviously on what you want, but Cupra are trying to offer everything within this car. So as I say, if you want mild hybrid, you've got it. If you want plug-in hybrid, if you're a company car user, you've got it. If you want something that's more performance orientated, you're not really that fussed about hybrids, you've got this power unit here with a 4-wheel drive, the DSG gearbox with 2 power ratings that you can have. So yeah, something for everyone, I think, unless you want diesel, obviously. Okay, out on the open road, how does it feel? Well, look, you know, I really wanted to drive the petrol one of these, because I do spend my life in electric cars and hybrids and things, and I thought, you know what, I quite fancy having a wee shot in a petrol one. So that's what I've grabbed, because I also think that's sort of where Cupra are. You know, they want to be seen as a performance brand, so why not try the performance variant? So 265 PS, which gives us quite a quick 0 to 60 time. Gives us a 0 to 60 time of 5.9 seconds. I think that's pretty decent, and it will top out at 151 miles an hour where permissible. So plenty quick enough for Brian, I'd say, certainly on these Spanish roads, which seem to be full of speed limits. So there we go. Let's talk a little bit about the mechanical setup of the car, because in terms of the suspension, Cupra have engineered the car to be their own car, rather than just taking a Tiguan platform and going, right, that'll do, and we'll stick a fancy interior on it and a different body on it and that'll do it. No. So the MQB Evo platform that it sits on, that it shares with other cars in the Volkswagen group, this car sits 10 millimeters lower than the platform would normally sit. So sport suspension is standard on the car as well, so that's nice. But especially around about sort of these more kind of twisting Spanish hillside roads. So it's got reasonably good turning. Now, what they've got is a McPherson strut suspension up front, multi-link at the rear. And there's a new style of dynamic chassis control with new valve operation in it as well that they've engineered into the car. So, you know, there's a lot to like about this car. Now, it is a big car, it is a big SUV. Sorry, there's a really ridiculously slow speed limit around here, and I can't figure out how you turn the speed limit warning sign off, so apologies on the beeping noise. There's a good turn-in to the car. Sorry, it's a big car, so we can't expect it to be like a Leon Cupra, or a Cupra Leon, as I should say, or a Formentor in some respects. It is a physically larger car, and therefore it is a heavier car. And Cupra keeps saying they want it to attract a more grown-up style of customer, but that doesn't necessarily mean to say it shouldn't drive, you know, in a fun manner. And to a certain point, it does. You know, as I say, the performance is very good on the car. There's a really nice turn of speed about it, more than you would ever really need in some respects for this style of family car. But in terms of sort of like the chassis control, it's all right. It's okay. There are better cars out there than it, but it's not bad. There's a bit of lean in the corners, that's what I will say. But that does actually suggest to me, and it's certainly proving to be the case, that the ride quality is quite nice. I am very impressed with the ride quality of the car. And bear in mind, this one's sitting on 20-inch wheels, you know? So it's not bad. I think it's pretty decent in terms, okay, I'm on relatively smooth roads, but there's been a couple of bits, through town where it's been a bit pockmarked. I'm impressed with the ride quality of the car in that sense. So the valve control on the dampers is one thing. What they've also done is they've also tuned the front uprights for more camber. So they brought them in a little bit to give more lateral grip in the corners. Now here we go, things are going to fly around here. Hang on, let's just fling it into this bend and see how it goes. Foot down mid-bend. Do you know what? That's not bad at all. I mean, that wasn't violently fast, but, considering the speed limit. But that's okay. I have heard that the plug-in hybrid struggles to sort of like disguise its weight. And that's maybe another reason why I was quite keen to drive this petrol engine car, just to see how well it handles. And it's all right. As I say, there are better cars than it in the class, no doubt about that. But on these twisty roads, it's not too shabby. It's sitting somewhere near the, not top of the class, but it's sitting somewhere in the upper 25%, I would say, in terms of the way that it handles. It certainly feels like a well-planted car. Right, let me just discuss the gear shift with you, because as I say, you've got this 7-speed DSG gearbox as standard, and it's operated off this column mount, so it's in drive at the moment. If I flick it forward now, it's in sport. So obviously it'll hold on to the ratios longer before it upshifts, and it will kick down a little bit harder as well. And while it's in here, I can now move it to manual mode. So you've got a left paddle to downshift, right paddle to upshift. Sorry, I'm doing that speed limit thing again. I just feel the paddles are too far in the wheel for me. I'd just like them to be a little bit further out. I've got to stretch the fingers. I've got small hands. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe Cupra engineers have got bigger hands than me. Wouldn't it be hard? But that's the only issue I can have with it. The gear shift itself is quite nice to respond. So as you come down the box, it's quite nice. And it doesn't labour the shift. It's relatively instantaneous. Even on upshift, the upshifts are slightly slurred, but not horrific. Again, I've driven a lot worse. I quite like it. It's quite a nice car. It is a bigger car though, you can tell. I have driven a Fermenta, and I do think that's a real sort of like sporty car, and you can tell that this is geared to be softer. They have set it up to try and cross that bridge, if you like, to try and stay in that middle ground between being a little bit more refined, a little bit more, just to say, a little bit more grown up in terms of, I'll give you a little bit more comfort. It feels a little bit more sophisticated in the chassis, but still enough to play with. But the ride quality is what's really impressing me. So whilst it's not a car that I would grab the keys for and head out into one of these Spanish hillside roads over, say, a Fermenta, the power's there, the gear shift quality's there, the steering's okay, the grip levels are good, but with that slightly softer suspension setup, it just has a little bit more, it's a little bit soft. But that's not me saying that's a bad thing. That's me understanding more of what I think Cupra are looking for in terms of a new customer base for this car. Yeah. They just need to be a little bit careful that they're not moving too far. They talk an awful lot about the the sporting heritage and the, you know, the whole thing about them being a rebellious, you know, sort of car company, you know, having character, and it does, it really does. And I love the rest of it. I like the way it looks. I love the interior. But they just want to be careful that they don't lose that Cupra-ness. But this is a nice car. I do like it. As I say, it's impressively comfortable to drive. Let me just quickly discuss other little bits and pieces about it. So the brakes, is there anything behind me? No, let's have a quick stamp on the anchors. Oh, good brakes. Now these, I think this has got the optional Akoba brakes. I think they're called Akoba, something like that. Really good, that's real stopping power there. That's very impressive. I do like that. The engine itself, this 2-litre TSI unit, I mean, obviously it's used an awful lot across Volkswagen Group products. It's got quite a nice linear power delivery. Do quite like it. But I say it has got quite a mass to haul around in this car. But you know, again, just, okay, we're not really sort of like throwing it out of bends and stuff, but I think it suits this car. I don't think you really miss, you know, like say a turbo diesel engine. I don't think you do. Now, this is a good car. I like it. As I say, as long as you don't expect a real firm, sporting, lightweight drive, as long as you do expect it to be that larger, family, softer SUV, but just with a bit of style and a bit of character injected into it. As long as you've got that in your mind, there's quite a lot to like here. Let me put it this way, I'd buy this over an Audi. Now, after I'd finished filming the review with the Terramar, I decided to take a plug-in hybrid for a drive, and I just thought I'd give you my thoughts here at the end. And I have to say that unless you must have a form of electrification in your new car, whether that's for lower running costs or taxation purposes, my view that this is not the pick of the Terramar range. The gearbox, which is actually a 6-speed DSG, not the 7-speed that you get in the petrol engine car, is the main issue with it. It's slow, it's got dim-witted shifts, and it has the propensity to disconnect the engine when slowing, which means that the engine braking through downshifts is eliminated. And that's not something that's helpful when you're tucking this big SUV into a bend. Plus, my view was the performance. It didn't really match and feel what the power figures would suggest it should be capable of. So my choice would be the 2-litre petrol engine, and that offers a more dynamic drive through lighter weight and a better management of the transmission. Don't get me wrong, it's not a road rocket, but it's a very decent family SUV with a good ton of speed and dynamics that will be enough for most. Right, pricing. Again, like the technical side, just forgive the iPad because I say I just got the prices. In fact, I got them last night, so I've had to kind of wade through them. So the range itself, there's obviously a walkthrough, so whether you want every last price that I've got here or not is entirely up to you. But let me give you the brief synopsis of it. The range kicks off with the 1.5 ETSI unit in V1 specification, and that comes in at 37,290, okay? Plus obviously your delivery charge and stuff. So just over 37 grand is where the range kicks off. And bear in mind, these prices are correct at time of filming. Okay, so obviously they may change over time. So yeah, you've got the V1, which is available either with the 1.5 TSI, the 2-litre pure petrol with the only 204 horsepower, or the e-hybrid with the 204 horsepower. Okay, so the V1 range goes from just over £37,000 to just £44,000 for the plug-in hybrid. Okay, then you move up to the V2 spec. That kicks off again, same with the, you know, in terms of the V1, in terms of what powertrains you get, and that goes from 39.8, so just under £40,000 up to 46.5. There you go. Then you go into VZ1, which only comes with the more powerful engines. So again, the more powerful petrol like this one, or the more powerful plug-in hybrid. You can't get the mild hybrid in the VZs. And that goes from 43,000 up to 47,000 in VZ1 trim, and VZ2 goes from 46 up to the top of the range. E-hybrid DSG system is at 49,460. So £50,000 really. There are two other models you can have. There's a first edition car, which obviously is the plug-in hybrid, and most manufacturers do these, and that's 51,700. Or there's a special edition called the America's Cup, because Cupra have got a tie-in with the sailing fraternity, the America's Cup, and that's the 2-litre petrol engine in 265 PS, guys, at 49,000. So basically what you're looking at is a range that kicks off at 37 grand and goes up to 50 grand. There you go. Right, competition for the car. Now, when we started the review, I talked about cars that I could see Cupra maybe aiming for. Now, naturally, you're going to think, oh, Tiguan, Kodiaq, you know, its contemporaries, you know, Ford Kuga, you know, those cars. I see it being a little bit more upmarket than that. I'm going to be honest with you, with the spec on the car, with the drivetrain options, with the whole brand, if you like, that Cupra trying, and dare I suggest, succeeding to be in my book. I do see it maybe as an alternative for, it's like Alfa Romeo, isn't it, I think? You know, Cupra have become a sort of Spanish Alfa Romeo, which was always Seat's intention years ago, which I find quite interesting. You know, a bit more sporting, a little bit left field. You know, oh, I don't fancy a BMW or an Audi like my neighbour's got. What am I going to buy that's still quite sporty and fun? People are going to look at it and go, oh, what's that? You'd buy a Cupra. So naturally, I think you're going to look at cars such as the BMW X1. The Audi, now I talked about this right at the start, this is built in the same manufacturing facility as Audi builds the Q3 and I think the Q5 in Hungary. So although the car was developed and designed in Barcelona, just down the road, it's built in Hungary. So there you go. But yes, you're naturally going to think, well, maybe Audi Q3, Audi Q5, is it going to be a rival for something like that? The Mercedes-Benz GLA, it could be a rival for that as well. Alfa Romeo, Tonale, Stelvio, those kind of cars, Volvo XC60, you know, although that's getting a bit long in the tooth now. So I do think it's a bit more premium than the likes of Tiguan, Ford Kuga. I know Peugeot are trying to push up market, but you know, Peugeot with the 3008, you know, and cars like that, I do see it more of BMW X1, Mercedes GLA, Audi Q3, Q5, you know, Volvo XC60 and Alfa Romeo. So those are the brands I think that it's aiming to compete with. And if you view it as that, I think you'll really like it. So, another medium-sized D-segment SUV that we have to consider. What's one more, eh? Well, I think you should consider this one. And the reason for that is because I think it does offer something just a little bit different to what's already out there over the ubiquitous BMW, Mercedes-Benz, or even Audi. There's a multitude of drivetrain options, so there appears to be something for everyone, whether you want the frugality of that mild hybrid, the performance of this full-blooded petrol engined one, or of course the taxation benefits that come with the plug-in hybrid. There's something there for you. I think it's very good looking. I think it's got a really stylish interior, and I love the fact that Cupra are really promoting the sustainability message with the car, which they see as important if they're going to attract new customers into the brand, as important as it is to emphasise that in as much as the way the car looks and the way that the car goes. So as I say, whilst it might not be the best car in its class, it certainly offers something a little bit different. And now we know what Cupra really does stand for. A healthy dose of Mediterranean style. Thank you for watching yet another new car review on House of Cars. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Then once you've done that, press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll get notified when my next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and of course don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of the channel on a whole and of the cars that we review, such as Cupra's new Terramar. Enough to tempt you away from the ubiquitous German rivals? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, if you're a fan of Instagram, remember we're across on there, and it's at House of Cars 1973, so please do give us a follow on there, because that certainly helps the channel. And also remember, whether or not it is a new car or an old car, a big car or a small car, a slow car or a fast car, you'll find them all here on the House of Cars. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.